The Terran diplomatic ship Odyssey descended through the thick amber clouds of Vraxis Prime like a blade slipping into silk. Below, the imperial capital stretched in gleaming towers and brutalist monoliths, a monument to 1,000 years of conquest. Inside the observation deck, 4 humans stood side by side, gazing at the alien world they were meant to tame with words, or die trying. At the center was Captain Elias Ward, broad-shouldered, silver at his temples, his military bearing only barely softened by the flowing diplomat's robe he wore. His blue eyes, sharp and calculating, never stopped moving. To his left, Lieutenant Sarah Vance leaned casually against the bulkhead, flipping a pen between her fingers with restless energy. Small, wiry, and whip-smart, she wore a smirk-like armor. Her gaze darted between the skyline and the incoming data feed she hacked mid-flight. Behind them stood Dr. Malik Rhodes, scholarly and thoughtful, adjusting his glasses as he memorized the layout of the Imperial Welcome Court. Where others saw threats, Malik searched for bridges, gaps to be closed with empathy rather than firepower. And finally Tessa Kane, silent, statuesque, arms folded, her expression unreadable, her posture relaxed but coiled. No formal title, no visible weapons, but every line of her body radiated danger honed by 100 forgotten missions. Ward said quietly, "Remember, we're diplomats, until they decide we're not." The others nodded without humor. They all knew the mission's real stakes. Humanity was bleeding. Earth's resources were dwindling, alliances collapsing, colonies in open revolt. If they couldn't secure trade rights or protection today, the Terran people might not survive the century. The Empire, of course, knew this, and they were already sharpening their knives. The ship touched down with a muted hiss. As the airlock cycled open, the first thing Ward noticed was the soldiers. Rows of them, crimson-armored, motionless, rifles gleaming under the twin suns. The second thing he noticed was the smell. Something chemical under the sterile perfume of the landing plaza. Sedatives, masking agents, an invisible noose tightening. At the foot of the ramp, a figure awaited them. General Kravix, supreme warlord of the Imperial border sectors. Thick-scaled, towering, armored in gold-trimmed battle plate, his teeth bared in what might have been a grin or a warning. General Kravix, gravelly voice. "Terran representatives, the Empire welcomes you. We trust you will find our hospitality unforgettable." Ward gave a shallow bow, just enough to satisfy protocol without implying submission. Captain Ward, neutral tone. "We are honored by your invitation, General. May this be the beginning of profitable friendship." Kravix's reptilian eyes glittered. Behind the words, the real message was clear. "You are insects in our house." The Terrans were ushered toward a grand processional hall. Statues of victorious imperial conquests loomed over them, each more grotesque and triumphant than the last. Sarah drifted subtly toward the walls, running hidden scans. Malik made quiet notes on species enslaved or extinct. Kane lingered a step behind, eyes tracking every possible ambush point. In the center of the hall, an opulent banquet table awaited, groaning with exotic delicacies. Unfamiliar meats steamed under crystal domes. Goblets glittered with multicolored liquors. Alien musicians played a shrill, dissonant melody that set human teeth on edge. It was a celebration, but of what? "Lieutenant Vance," low mutter over comms. "I'm reading mild tranquilizers in the air filtration. Bet you a week's rations the wine's worse." Kane, flatly. "Odds are already in your favor." Ward allowed none of it to show on his face. Instead, he took his place at the head of the table, directly across from Kravix. 1,000 unseen eyes watched. Kravix raised a goblet, muscles rippling under his armor. General Kravix, mocking toast. To peace between our peoples, may the strong find their rightful place among us. Ward lifted his own goblet with a smile so bland it might have been chiseled from stone. Captain Ward, evenly, to peace and to the surprises it brings. They drank, or appeared to. Ward barely wet his lips, already having taken a neutralizing dose en route. The others mirrored him flawlessly. The evening unfolded with theater and artifice. Musicians played, courtiers whispered. Kravix asked loaded questions about Terran defenses, economic weaknesses, internal politics. Ward answered just enough to sound disarmingly naive. Malik told hopeful stories of Terran cooperation with other alien races. Vance played the fool, laughing too loudly, speaking too quickly, even as she uploaded viruses into the Imperial monitoring network. Kane said almost nothing, her silence drawing more attention than speech ever could. Hours passed. Servants refilled glasses with thicker, sweeter liquors. Guards subtly closed in. The air grew heavier, charged with expectation, the moment before a kill. Ward leaned back, surveying the gilded death trap laid before them. They had walked into the Empire's heart. They had let the noose tighten. They had smiled for the cameras and the spies. And now the Empire believed they had won. Good. Because humanity didn't thrive when it was strongest. It thrived when cornered, when desperate, when underestimated. Ward whispered under his breath, almost smiling. Let's show them how wrong they are. Oss from him, Kravix's smirk widened. Guards began closing in, too slowly to draw panic, too quickly to be innocent. Kravix, mock sympathy. You must forgive us, Terrans. Diplomatic protocols require precautions. Two towering warriors moved to flank Malik, whose glasses reflected a flicker of movement. Another squad angled toward Vance, casual but tight, cutting off her path to the exits. Kane stood up lazily, drawing every eye. Ward waited until the first guard's hand brushed the ceremonial blade at his hip. Then he moved. With a sudden, brutal efficiency, Ward grabbed the edge of the heavy banquet table and flipped it into the approaching guards. Platters and goblets became shrapnel. Roaring in shock, the Imperials stumbled back, giving Ward the heartbeat he needed. Kane struck next, driving her elbow into a guard's throat with a sickening crunch. Before he could hit the ground, she was already disarming another, turning his shock baton against him. Across the room, Vance moved like a wraith, sliding under grasping hands, fingers flying across her wrist pad. Instantly, the palace's environmental controls overloaded, and emergency shields slammed down around the hall, trapping the Imperials inside with the very people they meant to betray. Chaos erupted. Malik ducked under a lunging guard, using a fork and a linen napkin to blind and trip him. Not elegant, but effective. He wasn't a fighter, but survival made improvisers of them all. Vance, overcomms, breathless. Environmental hacks working. They're locked in with us. No backup for at least 5 minutes. Ward, grimly. Plenty of time. Kravix roared orders, but without external comms, coordination among his forces fell apart. His warriors lunged blindly, smashing tables and tearing down tapestries, a blundering storm of muscle and fury. Human adaptability turned the environment against them. Vance triggered the ceiling's fire suppression system. Thick foam dumped onto the slick marble, sending heavy Imperial soldiers sliding like drunks on ice. Kane upended towering wine racks onto the nearest squad, the flammable liquors soaking their armor. Ward moved like a man possessed, disabling one attacker after another with swift, brutal economy. He didn't need to win outright. He only needed to destabilize, to turn the Empire's own arrogance into their undoing. At the heart of the room, Kravix howled in rage. He ripped a golden column from the floor and hurled it through the air. Malik, dodging, dryly. I take it negotiations have failed. Ward, ducking behind cover. Negotiations are ongoing, results pending. The ground shook as Imperial reinforcements pounded against the emergency shields. Vance's virus wouldn't hold forever. Vance, warning tone. We have 90 seconds until they breach. Ward scanned the room. No good exits. No time to disable every enemy. His eyes landed on the Imperial shuttle parked in the adjacent courtyard. Their intended escape route had been gift-wrapped in Krevix's hubris. Ward, sharp commanding. New plan. Crash their party and their ships. Move. Kane tossed a flash pellet into the air, a brilliant explosion of light and sound. Under the cover of the blast, the team sprinted across the hall. Malik took a grazing shot across his shoulder, gritting his teeth but staying upright. Kane caught him, half dragging him toward the courtyard. Vance disabled the last auto turret with a well-placed shock hack, fingers blistering from the heat. The Imperial shuttle's boarding ramp was lowering, an invitation if they moved fast enough. Guards poured in behind them, recovering from the confusion. Blaster fire seared the air. One shot grazed Ward's robe, the fabric catching fire for a heartbeat before Kane slapped it out. They tumbled into the shuttle's hold, Vance sealing the hatch with a furious pounding on the console. Inside, the ship was unfamiliar but comprehensible. Alien tech, sure, but nothing human ingenuity couldn't wrestle into obedience. Vance, grinning. It's basically a giant flying toaster. I got this. The shuttle's engines roared to life. Plasma bolts hammered the hull as they lifted off, the world shrinking below them into a swirl of chaos and fury. From the open cargo bay window, Ward saw Krevix below, his claws digging into the plaza stones, his bellow of rage echoing up into the evening sky. The humans had come in peace. The Empire had chosen violence. Now it would have to live with the consequences. Inside the shuttle, Malik slumped against the wall, bleeding but grinning weakly. Malik, wryly. I guess the diplomatic solution box is officially unchecked. Kane tossed him a stim patch, her voice dry. Kane, diplomacy's just war in slow motion, anyway. Ward allowed himself the briefest smile. Their survival was far from guaranteed. They were still deep in enemy territory, surrounded by a civilization that considered them insects. But insects could swarm. Insects could bite. Insects could bring down giants. Ward, steely over the comms. Vance, find us a place to disappear. Malik, stabilize. Kane, weapons inventory. We're not out yet. Vance, grinning. Out? Captain, we're just getting started. The shuttle arced into the alien sky, a tiny defiant speck against the colossal machinery of an empire, and behind them, on Vraxis Prime, a carefully laid trap smoldered in ruins. The shuttle dove low over Vraxis Prime's surface, hugging the twisted canyons and shimmering fields of toxic crystal. Alien cities gleamed in the distance, cold, heartless stars built atop the bones of conquered worlds. Inside the cramped shuttle cabin, the Terrans worked fast. Ward, commanding. Status report, fast. Vance, jammed into the pilot's chair, her fingers dancing across the unfamiliar controls, didn't look up. Vance, engines limping but holding. Shields at 20%. We're broadcasting an Imperial IFF signal, but it won't fool a close scan. Kane was inventorying weapons. 2 alien rifles, 6 stun grenades, and whatever they could strip from the shuttle's emergency kits. Her mouth was a grim line. Kane, flatly, we've got about enough firepower to piss them off. Not enough to survive a full military pursuit. Malik, pale but focused, had patched his shoulder and was working a portable console combing through stolen Imperial data. Malik. Good news. The Empire's internal comms are in chaos. Bad news. There's a planetary lockdown in effect. No ships out without fleet authorization. Ward leaned over the tactical map, flickering on the console. Imperial patrols were already vectoring toward their last known position. Ward, grimly, "We can't outrun them. We have to outfight them. Smarter, not harder." The others looked at him. They didn't question. They just waited. Because if humanity had one true strength, it was this. When everything collapsed, when the rules shattered and the old plans burned, humans adapted. Ward's mind raced. A frontal assault was suicide. Surrender meant slow death and political humiliation. But the Empire's greatest weakness wasn't its armies or its weapons. It was its pride. Ward, muttering, thinking aloud. "They think we're broken, beaten, too desperate to fight back." His eyes lit up with a dangerous spark. Ward, decisively. "Then we make it look like we're scattered, weak. We turn the population against them." Kane, raising an eyebrow. "Start a revolt with 4 people." Ward, grinning. "No, we just light the match. The fire's already there." Malik caught on immediately. Malik, "The subjugated species. There are riots simmering in the outlying sectors. If we can trigger them all at once—" Vance, grinning wickedly. "The Empire won't have time to worry about us. Beautiful." Ward stabbed a finger at the console. Ward, "Find me the biggest powder keg, Malik." Vance, "Prep the comms." Kane, "Weapons hot. We're going to start a galactic bonfire." The shuttle banked hard, arcing toward the industrial slums of Sector 9, a festering sprawl where enslaved laborers toiled under a permanent smog sky. The perfect place for a rebellion to ignite. 30 minutes later, they landed in a shadowed alleyway, the shuttle camouflaged under layers of industrial waste. The air stank of oil, blood, and hopelessness. The team moved fast, ditching their formal robes for scavenged armor pieces and civilian garb. They looked less like diplomats and more like insurgents now, tired, battered, dangerous. They slipped through the narrow streets, avoiding patrols, marking targets, broadcast towers, police armories, water purification centers. Everything that mattered to the oppressed, everything that could be weaponized. Vance, over encrypted comms. "Local networks are trash, but I can spike a signal through the old maintenance arrays. It'll look like it's coming from inside." Malik, "And the message?" Ward smiled grimly. Ward, "Simple. Hope, rage, and proof that someone hit the Empire and got away with it. They rigged a crude but powerful transmission. Images of Kravix's shattered banquet, Imperial guards flailing helplessly, Terrans slipping through their fingers like smoke. Overlaid with a message, spoken in the thick, defiant accent of Earth's first revolutionaries. "You are not alone. The Empire bleeds. Fight now, or die waiting." Vance hit transmit. The signal burst like a flare across the sector. The effect was immediate. A low, rumbling roar started in the slums. Shouts, the clanging of pipes against metal walls, the shriek of alarms. By the time Imperial patrols realized something was wrong, it was too late. Explosions rippled through the industrial plants. Barracks were overrun by mobs armed with stolen tools and burning fury. Workers, slaves, even Imperial dissidents took to the streets. The Empire's iron fist was strong, but even iron rusts when the flood comes. Kane, watching fires bloom across the skyline. "Took less than an hour." Ward, quietly. "It's been building for years. We just gave them a voice." Malik, nodding. "And something to believe in." Sirens wailed in the distance. Dropships screamed overhead, ferrying Imperial troops to a dozen new battlefronts. But none came for the Terrans. They were ghosts in the storm they had unleashed. Vance, grinning. "We've got a window. A real one this time. There's a civilian freight hub outside Sector 9, still lightly guarded. If we can hijack a transport—" Ward, nodding sharply. "Then we ride the chaos off-world." He looked around at his team, battered, exhausted, alive. And something more. Dangerous. They had been sent as diplomats. The Empire had tried to make them victims. Now they were something else entirely. Ward felt it in his bones, the old primal certainty. Humanity wasn't made to kneel, it was made to survive. Ward, steely, voice low. We finish this. No mercy, no surrender. They melted back into the burning city, moving toward their next battle. Not conquerors, not invaders, just humans, outnumbered, outgunned, and utterly unstoppable. Sector 9 burned behind them, a living storm of rebellion. The Terrans raced through back alleys and shattered streets, blending into the chaos. The freight hub loomed ahead, a sprawling tangle of loading bays, warehouses, and half-ruined orbital cranes. Their ticket out. But so was it also the Empire's last choke point. Dozens of Imperial troops had converged, setting up barricades, scanning every face. Ward, crouched behind a rusted hover hauler, studied the defenses. Ward, gritting his teeth. Too many to fight through clean. Vance, grimly. If we jam the scanners and trigger a loading alarm, the civvies might stampede, confuse them long enough for us to slip inside. Kane, checking ammo. High risk, high reward. Malik, softly. We're out of options. Ward made the call with a nod. They moved fast, human ghosts weaving through the desperate crowd gathering at the terminal fences, pretending to be just more panicked civilians. Vance hacked the control node from a maintenance crawlspace, her fingers moving faster than thought. With a deafening klaxon, the loading bay gates sprang open. Freight shuttles roared to life. Dockworkers shouted in confusion, and the mob surged forward. The Imperials, trained for orderly slaughter, panicked. Their neat lines collapsed as thousands of frightened bodies stampeded toward the gates. Blasters fired wildly, shouts turned to screams. The perfect cover. Ward and Kane led the way, cutting through the chaos, Malik close behind, clutching his stolen datapad like a lifeline. Vance sprinted last, eyes darting for threats. Blaster fire stitched the air around them. Ward tackled a soldier without breaking stride, stripping his ID chip. Kane disabled a sentry gun with a thrown wrench, sparks showering down. Malik skidded across a loading dock, hacking a landing shuttle's security with shaking hands. Malik, breathless. I've got one. Pad 8. Bay doors are unlocked. They tore across the open ground, a breath away from freedom. Then the skies screamed. A Carcassian raider, an Imperial fast attack flyer, dove from the smog clouds, plasma cannons spitting fire. The loading bay exploded into shards of molten metal. Kane cursed, dragging Vance out of the blast radius. Malik stumbled, coughing, blood spattering the ground. Ward gritted his teeth. They were so close. The raider swung around for a killing run, engines howling. Vance, hysterical laugh. Unless you got a miracle in your pocket, Captain, now's the time. Ward did have a miracle, and it was messy, stupid, and pure Terran insanity. Ward, yelling, Get to Pad 8! I'll deal with the flyer! Without waiting for argument, Ward sprinted for a battered loading crane. The Empire designed their machines for strength. Humans designed theirs for chaos. Ward leapt into the manual override station, smashing control levers. The ancient crane groaned, pivoting like a drunken giant. The raider lined up for a final, deadly strafing run. Ward roared, slamming the release. The crane's massive cargo, a half-assembled magnetic coupling the size of a small building, detached. It fell with a shriek of rending metal, right into the path of the raider. The Imperial craft never stood a chance. It slammed into the debris, detonating in a fireball that lit the gray sky red. The shockwave knocked Ward flat, his ears ringing. Kane. Overcoms. Urgent. Captain. Now! Ward staggered to his feet, sprinting toward Pad 8. The team was already inside the battered freighter, a civilian model, sluggish but space-worthy. Ward pounded up the ramp as Kane hit the thrusters. The freighter shuddered, groaned, and lifted. Tracer rounds stitched the sky around them. Missiles locked on, too late. The freighter punched through the cloud cover, climbing toward orbit like a drunk whale. Inside, the team collapsed into the crash couches, adrenaline spent. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Malik started laughing. A weak, wheezing sound. Malik between gasps. They sent diplomats. To negotiate. Kane, snorting. Well, technically we did start a dialogue. Just not the kind they wanted. Vance, grinning through bloodied teeth. Open communication. High-impact cultural exchange. Ward leaned back, closing his eyes briefly. The Empire thought they understood humans. Fragile, primitive, predictable. They had been wrong. Humans adapted. Humans fought. And when pushed too far, humans became something the Empire could never defeat. An idea whose time had come. Epilogue: The Empire's stunned broadcast. 3 days later, across the Galactic Empire's core worlds, an emergency broadcast interrupted every channel. Gravely, the Imperial Minister of Security addressed a stunned populace. Minister, stiff, formal. The Terran delegation dispatched to Vraxis Prime has violated all known protocols, engaged in acts of aggression, and incited widespread rebellion among subjugated populations. They are to be considered hostile combatants. Capture on sight. Termination authorized. Behind the minister, an image flickered. A grainy shot of 4 battered Terrans standing atop a burning shuttle, the flag of old Earth painted crudely across their armor. Ward, Kane, Malik, Vance. Symbols now, icons of resistance. The transmission ended. Across 100 occupied worlds, slavers and tyrants felt a cold hand of fear clutch their hearts. Because if even a handful of humans could do this much damage, what would happen when all of humanity arrived?